Hello everybody, peace. I really wanted to make this episode for those of you who feel like you are really trying to heal from your pain and you feel like as if you're taking 2 steps backwards. This one is for you.
From beautiful seas to flourishing legacies.
So this is a really short reminder, and it is a reminder to myself as well, and it is a reminder for those of you who are on a path of growth. And with growth, it is rare that you can move forward at least to your full potential without dealing with a lot of the things that have been in your past, right? And I know there's a lot of difference of opinions when it comes to dealing, coaching people and talking to them about their trauma. A lot of coaches don't want to go there. They don't want to dig into the past because there's a lot that can come up. My belief is that it is essential, especially in my own practice and in my own way of doing things and in my own way of writing and anything that I do, that the past is something that is so significant that is almost impossible to not bring it into the present, especially when it is something that is stopping you from going into the future. Now, for those of you who are in a place where you want to heal, where you want to grow, right? With healing comes growth. And there's this time sometimes that you feel like you have done so much. You've done so much work. You have read the books. You have met with the therapists. You have been in coaching, group coaching. You have been around people. You've been really putting yourself out there or putting yourself in there, whatever it is that your special needs are. And it can feel like as if you're doing an amazing job, and you can feel like your whole world is turning and you are growing and everything is amazing. But then something happens. And this is something that I wish I had heard so much more about. In fact, a lot of the information that I share on this channel is stuff that I wish that I had heard about. And one of those things is that something happens on your growth journey. Something happens that makes you feel like as if you are moving 10 steps backwards. You fall into the same patterns. These patterns emerge. These patterns are coping mechanisms from your childhood or from your adulthood or from whatever it is that you are escaping from. For it's your way of dealing with things. Some of us might feel like as if we go back into the pattern of people pleasing. People pleasing is a huge one. So many of us do this, right? And then some of us fall into a pattern of hurting other people, and you don't want to, but you just end up doing that. You just lash out and you repeat the behavior of what other people did to you as well. Other people might disassociate, and there's different ways that we can disassociate. We can disassociate by like being in a complete fantasy. So how that would show up is you are talking to someone and you are talking about everything but the issue. You are talking about all of these things except the actual issue, right? And then there's another way you can disassociate as well, where you begin to overthink things, you begin to obsess about things, and there are so many ways that you do this. And then there's another way that you might escape as well, and that way is the flight, right? So these are all the trauma responses, these are all the stress responses. Flight, where you are constantly on the go, you are always trying to get things done, not just get things done, but get things done perfectly, right? And then this is a coping mechanism. Where would we be if we never heard any other prophet's journeys? The truth is that life can be extremely stressful. It's so easy in today's world to feel alone, abandoned, unseen, unheard. But imagine being rejected and abandoned by your own parents and abandoned by your community. And that is exactly what happened to our Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. I'm so excited to share a free webinar with you, and it is called The Prophet's Pain, Understanding Our Own Pain with the Story of Ibrahim, peace be upon him. It's an introductory webinar to a course that I will be launching very soon, God willing. We're going to be discussing so many important topics. We'll be discussing parental abandonment, community ostracism, divine trial, the power of faith, and healing and resilience. There are limited spots, so make sure you reserve your spot. All the information is under this video, and make sure you RSVP. Once the date is announced, you'll be the first to know. Thank you, and see you there, inshallah. And then when we catch ourselves in this time, we begin to feel this sadness, this heaviness inside of us, because we feel like, hey, I did so much work and I feel like I'm literally back to step one. I'm still people pleasing. I'm still doing this thing. I'm still reacting in this way. It's like I haven't learned anything. And you get angry at yourself, right? And I wanted to just speak to that today, and just to let you know that it's a very normal thing. When you are on a journey of growth, when you are on a journey of healing, it is absolutely expected and very normal to feel like you are falling back, like you are going back into your old patterns, so to speak, right? And most of the time, the thing which brings us back to these patterns is a trigger. And a lot of the time, we're not even aware that we have been triggered. So for example, if you were a child who was shamed for having a voice, you said something, you were shamed for being angry, you were shamed for expressing yourself, what happens is maybe later in life you might have an instance that you are expressing yourself. You might be recording a video. I know this has happened to me, and what happens afterwards is that you might speak to someone, you're very vulnerable with them, you've been seen, you've expressed yourself. There's almost like this vulnerability exhaustion, this kind of like, you feel almost like this shame rising from being vulnerable, and then you begin to fall into the old patterns. And what many of us don't realize is when things like that happen, and it could be in so many ways that these things happen, these triggers happen, and they are personal to us, we are going through something called an emotional flashback. And emotional flashbacks are things which are extremely related to childhood trauma specifically. And it could be many other types of trauma. Flashbacks are also related to PTSD, but it is related to trauma, right? So it can be very difficult, and it can be very exhausting, and you can feel even more tired than before you even started the journey. I remember a few years ago, I would feel like I was on top of the world. I would walk around and I would feel like as if I was so grateful and so happy, and it was all amazing. I had my children, and then the cracks began to show, and I realized that there were so many, and they say that children are the biggest healing mode for healing. So this isn't to say don't have children, it's to say have children, because they open you up so much to so many things about yourself. And that's what happened to me. And as the cracks began to show, I realized, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of things that are unresolved here that I didn't even know existed. And they become so loud, and they become so unavoidable. And all along, as I'm doing the work and I'm realizing more and more, as I reflect upon that, I realized that I wasn't actually happy. At the time, I thought I was happy and feeling on top of the world. I was literally holding the pain inside of my body. I was holding the trauma literally inside of my body, and it was coming out in different ways, whether I realized it or not. And if it hadn't been dealt with, if it hadn't been approached, I would still be holding that inside of me, and it would, Allahu Alam, God knows best, it could come out in so many ways. And I have talked about how it comes out as chronic illness for some of us, as it comes out in passive aggressiveness for others, and so many other things. So just to let you know that this is a normal part of your journey, it is a normal part of healing. There are things that we have to deal with, and they are things which are essential, because if they are not dealt with, then we will never move forward to our greatest potential as much as we need to. And that is why my whole mission is to help you and help those people who I work with to transform their trauma into something that is meaningful, into meaningful legacies, right? Something that they can do and reach and do at the best and highest of their potential. And you can't do that without facing your shadows, right? Which are created so much from this trauma, and probably a whole nother topic of facing our shadows in another episode. So I hope that this video gives you a little bit of hope that what you are doing is the right thing, that you are on the right journey, that you just continue, persevere. And the greatest struggle that we will ever experience, the greatest thing thing that we will ever go through, the hardest thing, should I say, the most difficult thing, is to face ourselves and to heal from our trauma, because so many of the things that we experience are things that we have been avoiding or in denial about, and a lot of the things they're just not romanticized as they are in the movies, for example. I mean, how many of us wants to know that we treated someone wrongly, right? In order to accept that we treated someone wrongly, we have to accept something about us not being right, and that's what we conclude to, even though we are not wrong. What we did was wrong, and it is so difficult not to feel shame from the realization of that. So anyway, before I go into all of that, I should probably make another video on that. I really hope that this video was helpful for you today, and if you want a free downloadable of a chapter of my book, The Woke Writer, which is all about inspiration, then all the information is under this video. And if you want a full course on literally every chapter in this book, 14 lessons of jam-packed information all about inspiration according to Islam, then all the information is wherever you are watching this video or listening to this episode. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. May Allah make your journey easy and bring you to your highest potential and bring you closest to the best version of yourself in every way. Ameen.